Once again, I'm an Enterprise PDM Applications Engineer with TriMech, and let's have some fun today. So, taking a look at some of the advanced variable mappings and advanced Microsoft Office templates, what we need to start with is what you'll need to get a template created inside of Enterprise PDM with the appropriate variable information mapped in. Again, this is kind of an advanced topic, so I'm assuming that most everyone who has attended today has gone through the Enterprise PDM administration class and understand what a data card is and also what an Enterprise PDM template is. So some of the items that we're going to be working with and things that you'll need when you go to create your own Microsoft Office template file with variables mapped into the file, you'll need to start off with a data card. We're going to be taking a look at the variables inside of that data card. You'll need a Microsoft Office template file. Now today we're going to be using a Word file for our template file, but you can also use Excel among other different types of files. But again, today we're going to be using Microsoft Word. You're going to need access to the admin tool with the appropriate rights to modify templates, modify data cards, and access variables as well. So using either the admin user or a different user account that has appropriate rights or permissions is required. You'll also need to create an Enterprise PDM template, and you'll also need access to a local vault view. So let's see what we're going to start with. We're going to be creating, or rather modifying, a data card with some variable mapping. So we're going to actually go into the Enterprise PDM administration tool, and as you can see here, based on these little pictures, we have an almost fully completed engineering change order data card that's going to be used for a Word document. It's missing an ECO number, the created by, as well as the date field for the created date. So we're going to go in and make some variables and set up the attributes and the mapping properly to push the information from the data card into the file and also vice versa. So this is kind of the first step towards setting up the advanced property mappings for Microsoft Office files that we're going to be doing today. So let me go ahead and jump over to my administration tool that I have open. And as I mentioned, I already have a ECO card that's mostly completed inside of my variable mapping vault. So we're missing the ECO number field, the created by field, and the created date field. Previously, I went ahead and created a serial number that's going to be used for the ECO. So let's go ahead and start creating our fields on our data card. So the ECO number is going to use an edit box. Place that approximately there. And again, we're just modifying an existing data card. So I'm going to tie this to the variable ECO number, but as you can see, I don't have the variable ECO number, ECO created by, and ECO start date. So let me go ahead and create those variables now. I'm going to create a new variable called ECO number. And even though it is a number, it has some alpha characters, so my variable type is going to be text. My attribute that I'm going to map into the file is going to be specific for use with Word documents, custom property here, and the ECO number is going to be my attribute name as well. This is going to become important later on. So this attribute name is kind of what we're going to put inside of the Word document later on for the mapping capabilities to specific fields on the Word document. The file extensions that I'm going to tie this to are DOC, DOCX, DOCM, and I also have an Excel in here just in case. So it's very similar to the ECO comment that I've got here, but I'm trying to use this specifically for an ECO number. So I'm going to create a new variable, and this one's going to be for the ECO created by. I'm going to do some mapping here so that it connects to the custom property for the block name, and then the attribute name can be something like created by. Now, please note the attribute name and the variable name don't have to match, but this field here, this attribute name here is what's going to become important when we go to the Word document again. So I'll go ahead and just call it ECO created by, just to keep it consistent. I'm going to use my drop-down to choose the DOCs again. And let's go ahead and create the last variable for the ECO created date. So just as a review as I'm finishing this up, what we're doing is we are creating some variables with mapping that is going to take the information from the data card and push it into the Word document that we're going to use for our ECO template. Then it's going to take that information from the Word document custom properties, and we're going to push it into specific fields of the Word document ECO file. So let's go ahead and continue on. We've got our ECO number field now, and we've got our variable ECO number that we can connect it to. We're going to make this read-only, and we're going to use that serial number called ECO number. The created by is going to be a combo box drop list with the names of the users of the vault. So we're going to use the special value, full name of the user list, variable name that we're tying this to is going to be the ECO created by, and then we're going to choose the logged in user here. And then last but not least, we need to put in the date on this portion of the webinar for the data card. We're going to tie this to ECO created date, and we're going to say that it's going to be today's date by default. Okay, let's go ahead and save our card. Now that we've created the variables with the appropriate mapping into the Word documents for the ECO number, ECO created by, and ECO created date, we can continue on with the next portion, which is creating the template file. So I've got an engineering change order Word document that already has approved by, approved on disposition, special notes, reasons, effects, and description being pre-populated, but it's missing ECO number created by and created on. So we're going to tie those particular fields from the data card to the ECO number created by and created on inside of the Word document using some of the advanced tips and tricks for variable mappings inside of the file. So let's go ahead and take a look. I've got an ECO file. Let's see, we'll start here. I've got an ECO file here, Acme ECO. It's just a Word document. As I mentioned, we've got some fields here, approved by, approved on disposition, special notes, reasons, effects, description, that already have some fields applied to those different sections. Now, if you're unsure what fields are being applied to a document, you can change the advanced settings of the Word document to show you essentially the code information for the mappings by going to File, Options inside of Word, Advanced, and if we scroll down underneath the Show Document Content, there's this little checkbox here for Show Field Codes instead of their values. When I click OK, it's going to show me the document properties for these specific locations. So special note, this one's disposition, this one's approved date, and this is approved by. It's kind of hard to see down there, but that is what it says there. So I can see which of these different locations has some code already applied to those different fields. Again, that was under File, Options, Advanced. Drop it down a little bit to Show Document Content, and we can uncheck Show Field Codes instead of values to turn that back off. So we need to build into this Word document the appropriate custom properties that we're going to use for ECO number created by and created on. And so I'm going to go to the File location again, and over underneath Properties, I have the Advanced Properties dialog box. So when I open that up, I'm going to jump over to the Custom tab, and you can see here I've already got approved by, approved date, document number, disposition, special note, and project number. But I need to create the ECO number, the ECO created by and the ECO created date. And the name that goes in here, for example, ECO number, needs to be exactly the same as what we put inside of the variable attribute name. So this number needs to match, this attribute name, pardon me, needs to match what we put inside of the Advanced Properties Custom tab for the new name of the new custom property. I like to put a dash for the value, or a double dash potentially, just so that I can see that when I put the field in, it does work properly. Once you type in the ECO number here for the name or whatever you have as the attribute name, and you put a value, you can click on the Add button, which will add it to this list of custom properties. We also need ECO created by. I'm going to put a value here as a dash, and then I'm going to add it. And last but not least, we have ECO created date. Now, if there's a typo or a misspelling, it's not going to work properly. So in a little bit, we're going to do some testing, extensive testing, to make sure that our Word document is filling out properly and our template is working later on. So let me finish by adding those 3 new custom properties here. Click OK, and we'll go back over to the Home tab on our Word document, and we need to start building the fields for these 3 different locations, ECO number, created by, and created date. Created on. So with the line, or the cell in this case, that needs to have the ECO number applied to it, I'm going to leave the cursor there and go to the Insert tab. And underneath Quick Parts, we have an option to put in a field. So when I choose field, I get a dialog box that opens up. And the field that we're pulling from, if I drop this down, is going to be one of the custom document properties. So I'm going to choose DOC property for document property. And here are a list of all the different built-in properties as well as custom created properties. So we can see that we've got the ECO created by, ECO created date, and ECO number. For this particular field that I had the cursor on, it's for ECO number. So I'm choosing doc property, ECO number, and clicking OK. And we can see here that now I have that dash that I had put in for the ECO number custom property information. We also need created by. So I clicked on the cell here for created by. I'm going to my Insert tab again using my Quick Parts field. So I'm inserting a field. I'm going to choose doc property once again. And under here, we're going to choose ECO created by. Click OK, and we've got our little dash. Going down to the 3rd cell, click to put my cursor on the Insert tab again under Quick Parts. Last but not least, we're adding that doc property for the ECO created date. Click OK, and it fills out. We're almost done with prepping our Acme ECO template file, which is a Word document. We need to put in a macro that is going to automatically refresh these fields inside of this Word document. If you forget to add this macro, essentially it'll require a manual Control-A, CTRL plus the A keyboard button to select everything, and then hitting F9 to rerun the refresh. So we want to have it automatically refresh every time we open it. So because we are using a macro, this also means that this document needs to be a specific type of Word document. It needs to be a macro-enabled Word document. So let's go ahead and go to the Developer tab and go down to the macros here. If you don't have the Developer tab turned on inside of your Microsoft Word interface, you can right-click anywhere on this ribbon, go to the Customize Ribbon option, which is also under the File Options location. And under the Customizer ribbon, there's a checkbox here to turn the Developer tab on. Okay, so you can always come here and turn it on if you don't have it. Now, the macro that we're building specifically for this Acme ECO, so I'm choosing the Acme ECO document for this macro to be saved into. You're probably wondering, well, where in the heck am I going to find that thing, or what do I put here? I don't know code. You might know code. That's great. But if you don't, that's great as well, because inside of our handy-dandy administration guide for SOLIDWORKS Enterprise PDM, we have the auto open, in other words, the refresh macro, available for you to copy and paste. Now, if you're unsure of where this administration guide is, you can find it in the C Program Files, SOLIDWORKS Enterprise PDM, Lang, GB for English, or E for Espanol, F for French, etc., etc. But if you speak English, it's going to be GB for English. And there's our administration guide that's open in the background here. So I like to use the Control F. Control F is in Frank, Francis, Ford, etc., to find specific keywords like variable mapping. So here I can click directly to the Microsoft Office files for the variable mapping information. If you wanted to find out additional block names that are built into Microsoft Office files, such as summary block names, title, subject, creator, keywords, etc., you can also come here and find out what some of the built-in attributes and block names for those Microsoft Office documents. And then, of course, custom property are for the ones that are custom defined. But what we're mostly interested is adding a refresh macro, which can be found on page 428. So this is the instructions on how to set up a refresh macro inside of the Word document that we're going to use for our Enterprise PDM template. So it says here for the macro, we're going to go ahead and type in the name Auto Open and click Create. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to give it the name Auto Open, and I'm going to choose Create. So in this space here, according to our PDF, it says that we want to copy this macro code between the sub auto open right here and the end sub right there. So let's go ahead and copy. So it's just highlighting and copying. And then in here we're going to go ahead and paste, and I like to put another space between these two lines of code. And then save, and that should be all you need to do for that portion, creating that macro inside of our template file. And so now we'll go ahead and save the Acme ECO file. Now, if it's not a DOCM, as you see here, this is saying it's a DOCM. If it's not a DOCM and you're starting off with just a regular Word document, you're going to need to do a Save As Microsoft Word macro-enabled document. That's the DOCM. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this into our local vault view. And I've got a templates folder already created, so I'm going to save this Acme ECO macro-enabled document into my vault. Okay, so I've got the 3 different fields that are pointing to the 3 different custom properties that I created. And then I also put in that macro for the auto open, in other words, the refresh macro. Let's go ahead and close out of our Microsoft Word document that we saved into the vault and go back to our PowerPoint. So now we're going to create the Enterprise PDM template. We've got the data card, we've got our template file. We need to go ahead and finish by creating our Enterprise PDM template that is going to run and create a new engineering change order using that macro-enabled Word document. So we're going to, this should be fairly familiar, creating the Enterprise PDM templates, but if not, then this will be a great review for how to go through and create a template. So just as a reminder, any templates that we're going to be using for Enterprise PDM, any of our files that we're using need to be checked in. So let's go ahead and check in that document. Okay, and then we'll continue on with creating our template. So Enterprise PDM template, right-click, New Template. We'll give it a menu string like create an ECO. We can choose to execute as a specific user. We're going to skip that step. We're not going to be using a template card for today, but we do want to put this into a root level folder called ECO. So when someone creates a new engineering change order, it's going to go into the root level of the vault in a folder called ECO. So I'm choosing the yellow button here to create the new root folder called ECO. And when I click off, you'll see it does give me a little preview that it's going to go into C variable mapping ECO. So with that folder selected, I'm going to come over to the right-hand side, and I'm going to choose to add a new file inside of that ECO folder. And here I'm going to the C variable mapping templates and choosing that Acme ECO file. Clicking Open, we'll see that the template source file is pointing to that Acme ECO DOCM file. Now, we don't want to call it Acme ECO every single time. We want to utilize our template variables to potentially rename this file with a serial number. So I'm going to go over and say Organize Variables here. I'm going to say create a new variable, and the naming convention that is normally followed for template variables is a lowercase t underscore. So I'm going to use that here, and I'm going to call this ECO num, truncating it so that it'll be easier to use a little bit later on. And here for the ECO num, I'm going to choose the serial number, ECO number. And maybe I want to have this also fill out for the created by. Again, I'm truncating that, making it a little shorter. And maybe that'll be the name of the logged in user. We can also choose another, if we wanted to, create a date or any of the other information that you want to have fill out from the user or from the environment variable location information. Lots of different things that you can use here. Format string, we can use a whole bunch of different information here. So weekday, year, month, hour, etc., etc. So lots of different potential options. Sure, the date. Okay, and then we can copy those variables into our data card over here on the right-hand side. So now that I've created the template variable ECO number, I'm going to copy it into the card variable ECO number. Created by goes into ECO created by, and the created date goes into ECO created date. Because we're using a serial number inside of our template, we also want to disable the standard serial number generation from the card. And let's go ahead and get rid of this name because we're not going to call it Acme ECO every time. And let's choose our ECO number. So this name of the file will match what's in the data card as well. Clicking OK to make those changes saved for our source file. Let's go to our icon and maybe choose DOC. And then for users and groups, at this point, we really only have the admin user for this vault, so we're going to apply that there. Fairly straightforward. Okay, let's go ahead and click OK here. And now, back to our PowerPoint. So now we get to test the awesomeness. We're going to go into our local vault view and test whether or not the ECO is created properly, and also to see if the variable mapping is assigned properly as well. So let's go ahead and jump into our local vault view. I'm going to expand this out a little bit. And one other thing about this template, it needs to be in the local cache in order to run properly. So if your Acme ECO or your template source file is not local on the machine, it won't run properly. So let's go ahead and just hover over New, and there is our new template. We're going to create an ECO. Should run through. It's opening up. It's calling the document ECO4 and copying that information here for the ECO number. Looks like my created by didn't want to work too well, but we do have a date here. And maybe we'll choose, maybe not that date, but June 1st. Why not? 2015. How about today's date? There we go. I was having issues with that. Let's go ahead and put in subject here, keywords. We can change our disposition if we wanted to use inventory, and then special notes. We also have an ECO description. And we're just making sure that all of this information is coming through properly. Let's go ahead and open the file. And we can see here that the refresh macro is working properly. We have our use inventory for the disposition. We have our special notes for the special notes. We have the approved by still being a dash here. The created on has been filled out. The created by has been filled out, and the ECO number has been filled out. So these three fields are definitely working properly. We can also go into the file properties, advanced properties, and verify that the information is showing here as well. So we have ECO number, ECO created by, and ECO created date. So that's working properly. And then last but not least, we can also see that this is bidirectional, saying maybe we wanted to change the subject to 1, 2, 3, subject 1, 2, 3, sub 1, 2, 3, checked 1, 2, 3. Have some fun with it. Save, close. Let's go and take a look at it inside of our ECO folder where it was created. And our data card has a bidirectional mapping here as well. So finalizing by checking in, and our ECO is working properly. So just as a review, as we come to a close of the instructional side of this webinar, you're going to create or modify an existing data card with appropriate variable mappings to the source file type, DOC, DOCM, XLS, XLX, PPT, PPTX, etc. Once you've created or modified your data card with the appropriate variable mappings for your variables, you're going to copy in the template file into the vault, create custom advanced properties inside of that Word template file, create the macro inside of that Word template file, check that file in, create the EPDM template using that template file, and then test, 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 and then celebrate when it works perfectly. So now at this point, I want to just show you that there are a couple of different locations that you can find additional information if you want to see how to do variable mappings for Excel files or for other different types of files. Obviously, we always have access to our PDF inside of the C program files, SOLIDWORKS Enterprise PDM, Lang GB for English, Administration Guide. But if you wanted to go a little bit further in depth with the variable mappings and Microsoft Office documents, you can also always go to the SOLIDWORKS customer portal, create an account if you don't have one, and essentially access the knowledge base and do a search for information there for additional instructions on that. And then also the forums is a good place to look for information on some of the advanced mapping for Microsoft Office documents. So a couple of different places that you can find information. So at this point, I'm going to take a look and see if we have some questions. Looks like we don't have any yet. Looks like there's no questions, but that's okay. I'm going to remain on the line for a few minutes to see if there are any questions. And if you have questions after this webinar is finished, you can always contact myself at trimac.com. The csmith@trimac.com email address works. And then you can also take a look at our website, trimac.com, there as well. You know, I'm not 100% certain, but I would think that it would. I can double check that, Dory, and send you the information. I believe I have your contact information, Dory. I've worked with you before, so I'll double check and send you an email and let you know if the refresh macro works through section breaks in Word documents. It looks like you have not been using the DOCM. You have been using DOCX, and things seem to work with the refresh macro. That's great. I've had people use other Word document types, and it doesn't work out so well, especially if they're switching from a DOCX to a DOC or switching from a DOC to a DOCM in the template. So if you have success with the DOCX instead of the DOCM, I would suggest continuing on with using it, but moving forward for new templates, you might have some issues, and so I would recommend using the DOCM, Heidi. David, does this apply to file types outside of Word, Excel, PowerPoint? So each different file type requires different variable mapping settings. So for example, SOLIDWORKS files, you go into the custom tab in the configuration specific tab to do the mapping for SOLIDWORKS files. So some of this information does apply to file types outside of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but I would recommend taking a look at the administration guide specifically for some of the file types that they have listed there. So the macro is specific for Word. You don't need a macro inside of Excel, and haven't seen anyone really use a macro for PowerPoint. Visio, I'm not 100% certain on, David. I'm going to have to double check on that. I know I have your contact information as well. So, ooh, lots more questions. Awesome. You're welcome, David. So Heidi's asking, any known problems with defining a custom property, for example, title, even though this already exists as a block property? Not that I've seen. Now, if you have a custom property that's one of the summary properties, that could cause problems because it's going to show up in two different locations. So, for example, let me grab that document one more time. Okay, variable mappings. Let's go ahead and make that quite a bit bigger. So for example, if you have the title for the summary, then that could potentially cause a duplicate of information, or one of the fields is going to show up with the wrong information. So if it's a summary block name, you're going to want to make sure that you use summary instead of custom property for the variable mappings. I hope that makes sense.
All right, any other questions out there for Catherine? And also, just so you all know, this whole month, our webinars will be on ePDM. So if you haven't signed up for our other Wednesday seminars and you still haven't signed up,
sorry, Heidi.
Lots and lots of information. Oh, can I have 5,000?
You know what, Heidi? If I can find you $5,000, I'll give you half. How about that? If I can find 10,000, I'll give you 5,000.
And also, all of our webinars we do record, and we put them on our YouTube channel, and you can access that through our website, trimexsolutions.com, right there at the upper right-hand side. Heidi's saying it's a deal. Hold on, I want a cut of this, lady.
Okay, so now we got to find 15,000. 5 for me, 5 for you, 5 for Heidi. This is going to work.
We can do it. Come on. All right. Any other questions? All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions out there. Hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you so much again for attending. Bye-bye.